Can you describe to me back when you first see the Dolls on the old Grey Whistle test? You become a fan, and not just any fan, but you become, as I've read, a charter member of their fan club.
Well, I tried. I mean, that was never really quite true, but I was obsessive. I was ridiculously obsessive. This was the band for me. This was the turning point for me, and I was 13, and it was the right time. And for everybody, there's an artist that catches you just at the right time, an artist or a group, and you never let them go, and they can never disappoint you. And the Dolls were that for me. I just saw them and I thought, this is it. This is how it should be. And I remain loyal to them. And I'm very thankful, very thankful.
Flash forward 30 years.
Greg, sorry to interrupt. We have about 5 more minutes, then I got to take you to sound check.
Oh, good, good. For those of us who don't understand, would you explain what the Meltdown Festival is, how you became involved?
Well, the Meltdown Festival is an annual festival in England, and it's one person is appointed, if you like, the caretaker of the event. And this year it was me, and I was allowed to compile the bill for almost 10 days of any artists who are obviously willing to take part. From every strand of art. And so within pop music, obviously for me to try to get to David Johansen, who was the key to bringing the Doll name back, was top of the list.
Describe that conversation, David?
Yeah, the conversation was, I had met David previously, and I had known that historically he would always just simply draw, pull the shutters down at the mention of the Dolls, because it was the past. Maybe he was embittered by the fact that he'd never made the money. He'd inspired many people and never made the money himself. Get royalty checks, even though Dolls album now suddenly everywhere, stocked in a major record shop. So I expected David to laugh at me, to put the phone down, and but he was very agreeable, and it just seemed like now was the right time. And he said, yes, they are great songs. And I said, yes, and that's the reason why you should sing them. And that's the reason why people still want to hear them. And so when the Reformation occurred in London and they walked on the stage, it was, the love was just unbelievable. I mean, for me, it was just a jaw-dropping moment.
It was to me too, yeah. And I was surprised.
Yeah.
Were you?
Everybody was, because you fear the absolute worst in these events, and you're convinced that it can only be disappointing, and the past is the past, and it's a long time ago, and whoever made that great music is now going to look silly because their lives have changed and they're out of touch. Astonishingly, everything within that night, the Dolls, David Sylvain and Arthur, just so fantastic. They did it absolutely right, and everybody was just gassed, and it was a beautiful moment. And Arthur played fantastically, and I went to him later and I said, absolutely fantastic playing. And his eyes were welling, because I think some part of him felt that he might make a few major boo-boos, shall we say. But no, it was just so wonderful, so wonderful. And it wasn't cabaret, it wasn't even nostalgia, which was amazing. It was just so right.
You said you recounted some moments when you saw on stage a look in his eye. Would you mind recounting that?
Well, he had extreme humility. He really did, and he obviously was a very, very gentle person and a very fragile person. Yet here he is connected to one of the most raucous, notorious rock and roll bands in musical history. Yet he was very, very fragile, and I don't think he ever really believed that he would ever be standing on a stage playing those songs again with David Sylvain. And I just, watching him throughout the night, I could just see a sense of bewilderment, sadness and joy. Everything was in his face. I think he was just praying throughout the night, praying with thanks to somebody whom he now believed in. He was just so grateful, and the life must end, as Arthur's did. It was a beautiful way to go.
Do you remember what you told him when he first reached you on the phone?
He was so full of doubt. Could it possibly be? David really wants to do it. Play those songs. We're going to be together. We're going to rehearse. I'm going to go to New York and rehearse with them. I said, Arthur, people love the Dolls and they want it to happen, and it's going to be absolutely wonderful. And of course he was shrouded in doubt because of the humility and the years in the wilderness that he'd spent. I mean, but
You probably, do you have a time that you want to tell me? I don't want to make sure I'm keeping you.
I should want to check to see how much it's got here.
If you want to radio in.
I have, I came with Arthur when we first decided we were going to make this film, and he said, you know, to tell you the truth, I've got these passes to Morrissey, he's in town. And it was back in April, I think late April, early May.
yes, yes.
We walked in, and he was nervous. We picked him up, and because my wife had something she was going on, we were late. But we were driving in, and he was nervous. And he told me later that over the years, he used to be kind of a big deal when he would show up to shows, and that dwindled over time. And I think he was somewhat apprehensive of how this would go. You were gracious enough to give him some passes. As we walked in. Right as we walked in, and I don't know how you did it, but you guys started Subway Train. That literally was the first song that came out, and I'll never forget the look on his face. The foresight you must have had to invite him to play that concert when you did changed his life.
Well, it's just, I think it's the expression of somebody who doesn't realize how much they're loved. And when people called his name that night from the stage, which they repeatedly did, shouted his name, I don't think he could quite believe it.
I know that he did, that's right.
Yes, yes.
Final thought, because I need you on stage now.
You have pretty much, I've got a note from Seth. Oh, did you know that Arthur was sick?
No, I didn't know at all. I knew he had certain ailments, but not that he was sick, no.
Do you know any other bands, just right offhand, from that old Grey Whistle test back in those days, what bands that you know of immediately that were influenced?
Well, there's so many. I mean, obviously, all of the key groups in the British punk scene, like the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Damned, Generation X, the list is absolutely endless. The Pretenders, the list is astonishing. But then there's also the soft metal or heavy metal Motley Crues and people like Poison and Cinderella and groups that I don't know too much about them, but the list goes on forever.
Is there anything that you'd like to say about Arthur, even if it relates to his passing, before we wrap up?
He was a terribly sweet person. He really was, and I don't think he quite realised how much of a vital part he was of the Dolls, and how much the Dolls mattered to so many people, because they are loved, and he's a part of that, and he will be forever, and death doesn't alter anything.